guys, and welcome to a new video. Today we're gonna talk about the build that I'm using for this magic finding project, the science project running a quad tab of burial chambers, and it is a Vaal Arc Pathfinder, the return of the great Vaal Arc. And if you think like I'm using this build because Arc got buffed in terms of range, no, Vaal Arc was always the same as it was. Even when Arc got nerfed, Vaal Arc didn't, okay? So Vaal Arc works the same stupid way as it always did. So it is currently 8:30 in the morning, trying to get this build guide going before I'm starting the third day of the magic finding series here, right? But I don't want to, I really try to not spoiler anything, okay? Just to mention. Good. In this build guide video, I want you to really sit back, relax, and enjoy it, more or less. Because this build guide is way more in-depth than the others. It's not like a Cyclone where you say like, okay, here, take this weapon, Cyclone, infused channeling, and these are the gems and you should be fine. There is a lot of mechanics built into this character. So the path of building link, as always, is in the description below if you just want to copy pasta it. But then just don't come to the stream and ask me why I have 5 stacks of Vaal Arc, okay? So this video will explain everything based on Vaal Arc, how it works, soul game prevention, my Flask setup, what items you can take, what not, and so on, okay? But first of all, map showcase. So we're gonna run a burial chamber like the way I'm doing it. And this is not my current tab, this is my personal tab. So here I prepared all of these tabs are just magic finding from fossils, essence, whatever, you know? So we're still gonna go into this tab. So I ran like, yeah, maybe a good third of the maps here. So we're gonna take out any random burial chamber here. Actually, we're gonna take 3. Shit, that will, wait, we're gonna make this different. We go to maps, we take a separate burial chamber, okay? This one will not count into the thing, because now I don't have a sextant on, so we're just gonna chisel that one, we're gonna alch it, and I'm just playing as we go, and I don't even have chaos. Yeah, we're gonna run just this map, and we're gonna activate the Legion. So I'm running all of these maps with Legion. The reason for that is I played a shit ton of Magic Finders in Legion League. From Vaal Ice Nova, the Cast on Crit, Frostbolt Ice Nova, the Essence Drainer, the Kinetic Blast, Tornado Shot, and also Vaal Arc. And I just thought or think that Vaal Arc is the ultimate Legion killer. Usually, I would say 7 out of 10 times, you're gonna one-shot this whole Legion pylon. With one cast, you free all the enemies. With the second, you're killing off all the monsters. You can even do metamorphs with this one, what I would definitely recommend doing. So, before I talk about Flask setup and so on, this will come into the later part. But just let's just see. So I'm running in here, casting the first arc, and now I have Vaal Arc with freaking 5 stacks as soon as I hit enough enemies. And this thing chains and like an absolute madness, as you can see over here. What I'm doing here is, as I said, I use arc, the usual arc, just one single time or maybe 2 times depending how beefy this monsters are. And then after that, I'm just flame dashing around and just killing everything with my Vaal Arc. And it usually is like, sometimes even 2 screens depending on the pack size. So, the Legion Monolith is on the second part, which is good. Because the Metamorph is kind of beefy, okay? Just saying, the Metamorph can kill you sometimes. Which is not a big deal, because we have a custom death portal. But I found out a good way to do them. If the Legion Stone, as here, is on the second part of the map, I'm completely ignoring it for now, so I'm just clearing off the map. We kill off the map, getting all the organs going, right? And then I spawn the Metamorph together with the Legion. This is how I personally found out. It's a super easy way to do it. As I said, you maybe not be able to one-shot the Legion. This is depending if there is a boss inside there, if you crash or something, which doesn't luckily not happen to me. Good, so we killed all the map here. So I'm going over here now, right? I have my 5 Vaal stacks. Here it is 1, but if I press my Flask, it should be up. Never mind. So I'm using this one. The way I click this is basically I just want to have treasures, right? So I always prioritize currency over anything else, you know? I don't need to max this. So I'm just picking all the things like map. What can I get? Not a lot, so I'm just taking this one and here this one because this gives me treasure. This one does not. So this is the way I'm popping this one. I wait a little bit. I'm activating the Legion, and now I'm killing the Legion here. And as you will see, it lags a little bit. and it was not a one-shot, sadly. So there is like a couple more monsters left and right. But I'm getting a lot of arc stacks, so now I can basically just kill the Metamorph. And then one additional arc, it lags a little bit, and then the Legion is clear for the majority. Let's see. Here are two more monsters. Here is one more. So yeah, 3 monsters here survived the attack, okay? Good thing, bad thing, as I said, in most cases you're gonna one-shot the Legion. Means you have this timer with 15 seconds, right? Where you can have time to free the Legion. That means I cast one single time, and in, let's say, as I said, like 60-70% it's going to be a one-shot. You're gonna free all with the first cast. If not, you're still gonna kill at least 95% of those dudes. And then you can basically have another 13 seconds, 14 seconds time to find the last one. Basically, sometimes it's a boss or something, and then easy to go. Even the Metamorph died within the explosion. Super easy to do. Very cool build, very fun build. Okay, this is how this build works. I know a little bit of a clusterfuck here and everything. There's a lot of stuff going on here, right? But let's just throw everything into my dump tab here. Let me quickly clean this one up. So this. Oh, wait. I'm actually not allowed to put this in here because this doesn't count to my actual result. But yeah, we're gonna talk about the actual build now. Means how am I able to get all these Vaal stacks, the soul game prevention, all of that thing. And this is basically what we're gonna start. I'm really trying to be like as good as explaining as I can do here on this build. To give you a good example on how Vaal Arc works and how a lot of other Vaal builds work. If you want to try out Vaal Blight, if you want to try out Vaal Spark and all this kind of stuff, will work the same. Good. First of all, we need to pay attention. What modifiers do we have? What is important? So on Vaal, we're just talking about the Vaal skills now, okay? So we have the Soul Gain Prevention. This is the one that says, basically, if I just put my arc away here, it says soul gain prevention is 6 seconds, okay? That means as soon as I use my Vaal arc, I cannot gain any souls for the next 6 seconds, okay? Good, this is the first one, and the other one is the reduced soul cost of Vaal skills. This basically makes, okay, again, we hover over the Vaal arc, it says 25 souls per use. We can reduce that amount by a lot, and this is the reason why I have so many Vaal arc stacks. The reason is souls per use 25. So if I get it below 12 or below 13 actually, so it's half, I would have 2 Vaal arc stacks. Since I'm having 5 Vaal arc stacks, means that my souls per use is less than 5, or actually 5 between 5 and 6 or something. Okay, good. How can we manipulate that? There is a pretty cool way here, as well as the the way the Pathfinder works. And yes, this has to be a Pathfinder. It will not work with an Elementalist or anything like that. The reason for that is you need those Flask effect nodes, okay? The Flask effect nodes will make your Flasks stronger as they are. So the main reason we are, the main point here is we are using the Soulcatcher Flask that has Vaal skills used during effect have 40% reduced soul game duration and 25% reduced soul cost, okay? But with the Flask effect, we don't have 25 and 40, we're gonna have more than that. So even less soul game prevention and even less cost of Vaal skills. So we have to be a Pathfinder for this. All right, I made a calculation tab a couple days ago, let me see, Vaal skills, which basically explains everything here. God damn it. So this is basically my Vaal skills. This is how I calculated my arc, the way it works now. So if we go over this tab here, at least this Path of Exile here. So what is important here? Soul cost reduction on weapons. Good. This is a modifier that you gain from a blood-stained fossil, okay? And I crafted this one with, okay, let's talk about the gear later on, okay? This is the reduced soul cost of Vaal skills. This is something you get 100% from a blood-stained fossil. I used that twice. So I'm having the 40% of my weapon 2 times 20%. So I wrote this one down, weapon modifier, 40% here, right? 20-20. The next thing is the soul cost reduction from the Flask. First of all, we have to actually go to the calculation. So the soul catcher calculation here is basically, as I was just saying, the amount of effect of the flask do I have, and then it gets multiplied together, and then you have a total outcome, okay? So if we scroll down here, we have the, where is it? Blah, 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 blah. Here, soul catcher calculation, I was hovering it anyways. 25% does the flask have, okay? This is what the flask is doing. 25% reduced cost of soul cost, basically. So I have a total of currently 61% effect of flasks. And this is what I listed here. So we have the Conqueror's Potency, for example. This is this jewel here. 8% increased effect of flask. Then we have 25% effect of flask from our ascendancy. These are all the small points here. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Then we have mana and flask effect, 10%. These are these two small nodes here. They are both having 5% effect, a total of 10%. Then I have 10% of Aqueous Accelerant. That's the node on the top side over here. This will give you another 10%. Then we have Profane Chemistry Anointed here. So this is the node over here. And I'm going to just tell you, if you don't have the Swift Affliction or less duration on a higher level and you're getting a higher soul gain prevention, you can just skill into here, okay? So you're just taking those points here and get the Arcane Chemistry as well. The way I build it, it works without the Arcane Chemistry. See, I could get 8%, but I have 0. This is because I haven't skilled it yet. But Profane Chemistry will give is anointed from my amulet, and the Belt Craft is something I don't use either. So with these points here together, I'm having 61% increased flask effect, and this is basically the 25% with a 1.61 multiplier because my flasks will now be better. And we're gonna get up to a point where we say my flask doesn't give me 25% reduced soul cost during effect, it will give me 40% reduced soul cost, okay? So, and this with the weapon will give me a total calculation of 5.06 Vaal stacks, okay? The reason this works is, let's say I have 5.99, let's say 5.99 here, then the skill will tell me that I have 5 Vaal stacks. If I have 601, it will tell me I have 6. So it's only about the first number. So what I did is I tried to be as close to 5 as possible, just because I don't want to waste points. So how does this work? Let's say I would get the Arcane Chemistry as well. Okay, let's say I use some skill points and get this one as well. This is the same as here. This is just life. This is mana, but both give me a flask effect. So I'm scaling that one. So I say 8 because it's the 8%. Now my flask, I would have 5.63 Vaal stacks, which is useless for me, okay? That's why I min-maxed this one to say this is probably the best way to do it. I'm getting 5.06. This is the Vaal amount of stacks. That means that I have 4.94 souls per use, okay? This is the reason why I have freaking 5 Vaal stacks. Instead of 25, we're reducing it to 4.94. Good. That's the first explanation. As I said, flask effect, and the weapons with the soul cost Vaal reduction, basically. Now we talk about the second thing, so this is out of the way, basically. Now we talk about the soul gain prevention. So as I said, the soul gain prevention is the one that says how long is the time when you use your Vaal skill, how long can you not gain souls before you gain souls again, before you can use it again. Okay. The way this works is we now have 6 seconds. If we're using the flask, since we have already the flask effect nodes and so on, I'm just using the flask. It has 40% reduced, right? But plus the flask effect. So instead of 6 seconds of my soul gain, as soon as I use the flask, I'm on 2.16, okay? So I have 1/3 of the actual amount of soul gain prevention. So if we write this down, we have like 216 now with the flask. All right, so how can we manipulate this one more? With less skill effect duration or reduced skill effect duration. So the one thing that we don't want to use is getting increased skill effect duration. You have to see it like that. Increased effect of skills, increased effect skill effect duration will also make your soul gain prevention longer. So if I would use just the arc that has 6 second soul gain prevention with an increased duration support, then the buff from Vaal arc, this gives you a buff, but this is just not too mandatory. But the buff will last longer, but your soul gain prevention will probably jump up to like 10 seconds or something like that. So you really want to stay away from all modifiers that have increased effect duration. But if we use the opposite, if we use a less duration, right, this gives me 50% less skill effect duration and reduced skill effect duration. So I'm socking this one in. Instead of 6 seconds, we're now on 2.67. Now I'm using my Flask, and I'm 0.75. So in less than a second, I can gain souls again, right? So 0.75, this is Flask plus the less duration. And now we have another very, very cool thing, and this is the Swift Affliction. Swift Affliction is usually a gem that modifies your like damage over time things, okay? But it had also a very important line. It says, reduced duration of supported skills and damaging ailments they inflict, okay? That means it's working the same as the less duration support. And this is quite insane, because, let me just put this one up. And this is important if you want to be on a budget or not. So, Swift Affliction PoE, there you go. So, the way it worked was 15% reduced. But since we got the Awakened Gems now, this one is 25% reduced, okay? So, the Awakened Swift Affliction will give me another 10% reduced. So, if I socket this one in, plus the less duration, plus the Flask, check this out, 0 seconds soul gain prevention. So, my Arc will never have soul gain prevention. Whatever I'm going to kill with Arc, I'm getting back the souls, and if I kill more than 5 monsters, I can activate Vaal Arc again, okay? Good, so that means there's another point here I want to talk about. And this is just because I'm using Awakened Gems, it's a little bit expensive, right? So I have this table here, right? So what happens here? I'm having a 21-23 less duration. This is like, it's not too expensive to be honest, because not a lot of people are using that, so you're gonna get this quite cheap. But the Swift Affliction, the Awakened version, is a couple exalts. So how would it look like if I say I have the old Swift Affliction? So not 25% reduced, I'm having 15% reduced. That would get my soul gain prevention to 0.30, which is not a lot, okay? Don't forget, my Vaal Arc has a cast time of 0.51 before it releases, so as long as I'm staying below the cast time, I should be fine, okay? Another thing is, you cannot directly say it like that, because let's say you shoot Vaal Arc to the left side, Vaal Arc to the right side. So you shoot it on the left side, you gain souls again, you shoot it on the right side, your soul gain prevention will be locked for 0.3 seconds, which is not a lot, but as you're having that 0.30 seconds, the left arc will basically still chain and killing monsters and give you back the souls, but you're gonna block yourself with that, okay? So, the main thing I want to say here, let's say you have the non-Swift Affliction support and you're having the, not the 21 less duration, let's say you're down to 50% at soul gain prevention calculation. Oh, yeah, soul gain prevention. Wait, where's my last duration? Here it is. No, there's another one. Shit. Wait. Why is it 20%? It should actually be 50%. Ah, never mind. The core message, okay? The core message is, if you don't have the last duration 21-23, which you don't need to have, and no Awakened Swift Affliction, you're gonna have more soul gain prevention. It will still be fine, but you should aim to be as close to 0 as possible. If you don't have that, you can still, as I said, go and scale these couple points into here and take the Arcane Chemistry, take the Profane Chemistry, and anoint something else, okay? So if you do that, if you say you take this point as well, then you get down your soul gain calculation as well. The way I play it with the anointment and without skill point is because I have the last duration, because I have the Awakened Swift Affliction, which as soon as I use my Flask will get me to 0 soul gain prevention, okay? So there is some room to play, and since you understand the principle with a less duration here and the reduced duration, you're gonna find out a way when you say like, I don't have this, I don't have that, how can I make it still as good as possible? Take this one, take a rare belt with the craft, and you will be as well as close to 0 as possible. Good. That's the explaining of the Vaal skills and the soul gain prevention. Let's talk about a very, very specific Flask setup that I'm using, which is the Soul Catcher, the Lavyanga Spirit, and the Divination Distillate. So, what this one is also doing, it says cannot gain mana during effect. So that means I'm using a skill, for example, right? Hey, wait, wait. Where's my arc? Oh, I'm using a skill, I'm dropping mana, and then it gets regened, and I can only use like maybe like 2 or 3 arcs before I have to wait for my mana regen to apply, right? So if I now use my Soul Catcher, it stops getting mana. Okay, I have now 67, my arc costs 70, I cannot even cast it, okay? It blocks your mana gain from flasks, from mana regen, from everything like that. So that's why we use the Lavianga Spirit that says your skills have no mana cost during effect. So this one blocks it. That means I cannot regen mana. So this flask will only stop once I have full mana. I will never have full mana because this one blocks it. So the way it works is I'm wasting my mana here. I'm using my soul gain. I cannot cast something. I'm using the Laviangas, and now I can permanently cast because your skills have no cost during this effect. And it will last the whole 3.3 seconds, and since we're Pathfinder, we're gonna have this flask available 24/7. The next point is this one, the Divination Distillate. It says quantity during flask effect, light radius during flask effect, 50 all resistance during flask effect, and no, my resistance are kind of garbage, but with this flask on, it works the same way with here. We block the mana, this one tries to get me mana, it will not be full, or at least it will not stop as long as I'm not full, so I'm gonna have the 18 quantity and the 50 all resistance for the entire duration, okay? This one blocks mana, this one lets me use skills for no mana cost, Flame Dash for example, and then I'm also getting the full potential of the Divination Distillate. So I'm using my skills, blocking mana, I can cast them free, and now I get the quantity and I'm rest capped. Okay? This is a very 1, 2, 3 flask way to block mana, to gain mana, and to gain the quantity and the all resistance to make your char very, very powerful. Good. Vaal skills out of the way, flask setup out of the way, quick sip of coffee, and then we're gonna talk quickly about the gear, what is important and what not. Okay, top to bottom, this one, Arc Chain's additional time, is not necessary, but is nice to have. I did try out the other helm enchant as well. I think it was like 12% increased damage for each time Arc is chained, and I found out that the chains for some reason are somewhat nicer with this one because the way Vaal Arc works. This is something I just cannot tell you how exactly it works because the Vaal Arc chains endlessly. It says 11 times, I know, and if I put this away, it chains 10 times, so it counts for Vaal Arc, but sometimes I use one single Vaal Arc and I'm killing more than 500 monsters, okay? So it chains kind of endlessly, okay? Still, I just feel like when I'm playing with the Arc Chain's additional time, it feels more smooth. Okay, I cannot give you a full calculation on how this works and why does it feel better. I just tell you I tested this one, I tested that one, I stay with this one because it feels better, okay? But if you don't have a Vaal Arc enchant or Arc enchant, doesn't really matter, okay? Not a big deal. This is just for an additional chain. But since Vaal Arc chains already like a madman, absolutely no problem, but it feels smoother. The rest, life, energy shield. One of the few sources of energy, like resistance that we get. Life, energy shield. For the weapons, as I said, soul cost reduction. This is the Bloodstained Fossil, and with the Hollow Fossil, you're getting the Abyssal Socket. So when I socket a Resonator with just Hollow and Bloodstained, I will get this kind of weapon. With 2 other mods, I annulled the rest off, then just multi-modded. I know it's missing one stat, but I don't want to slam it because it is kind of useless. The reason for that is a melee dagger, okay? I'm using shaped version of this dagger because when I used my fossils, I could potentially get Alley Pen or any useful stat. Sadly, I did not, so if this is shaped or not doesn't really matter. But I want to have the critical strike chance. Since this is a crit build and I'm kind of starved on crit based on my items, I just want to have the highest amount of crit. So that means I could use wands for increased spell damage. I could use scepters for the Alley Pen and so on, right? Or the increased elemental damage would be better. But I want to have the crit, that's why I decided to go with a platinum crit. So you can use like void scepters. Holy shit, sorry. You can use void scepters or anything like that, and you should be fine, okay? I just personally said, like, I want to have the increased global critical strike chance. So this counts for my spells as well. And the rest is just multi-modded lightning damage flat, then increased spell damage, non-chaos is extra, whatever you can fit on it. But the most important thing here is the reduced cost of Vaal skills. The additional digital socket. Okay, the additional abyss socket. There you go. I'm using here chaos like multiplier, crit multi, and also lightning damage flat on both. Can have onslaught as well, which would also be nice, but since I'm a Flask finder, I'm already super fast with just my flasks on, but if you can fit it in with the onslaught, super nice. I'm having here flame dash with faster casting. Arcane Surge doesn't work just because you're blocking your mana. That means your skills are free, and as long as you're not spending mana, you will never get Arcane Surge. On the other hand, Cast on Death Portal, one of my most favorite magic finding or mapping items, basically, since I'm a softcore player, obviously. It just sucks if you're, let's say, in the second part of Burial Chamber or somewhere else, and you die, okay? And then you have to walk back to your corpse, basically, or just... It's just a waste of time, you know? If I have this setup, if you can fit it in, Cast on Death Portal, you die, you spawn a portal on your corpse, you just go from your hideout into the portal, and you can start where you died, okay? This is just a super quality of life. Then we have the Impulsor, since this is an arc build, a lightning-based build, and it's going to shock. We have this super nice explosions. This will also help with the clearing. You can take a Queen of the Forest, you can start with a Tabula. It's just quality of life. Then I have here Vaal Arc, added lightning, lightning penetration, and control destruction. This is basically my full link, okay? Because the less duration and the swift affliction will basically only manipulate my soul gain prevention, what we talked about before. I mean, less duration gives you 20% more damage, but other support gems will give you way more. So I would say it's like a 4.5 link. Then I'm using the typical magic finding items. So I'm using double the Pariah. You can quality that with the caster modifier, with the catalysts, and you're gonna get more cast speed, not mandatory, super cheap item. Gives you need to have a white socket for the increased quantity, and by the way, we're running 103% quantity permanently. I'm using here Wrath because the ring will give me +2 level socket gem, so my Wrath is currently level 22, and my Cell Tree is level 23 because it's a level 21 gem. Then we have the Sedima's Touch. If you can get them with spell crit, because this is a global thing. Here I have just a precision, and then we have a Viscous Leash, which is also just for quantity, and the Goldworm Boots for quantity. Here I'm using Cast when damage taking, Immortal Call, this is useless, and Withering Stab. Just because this is a guard skill, this is a guard skill. I don't know why I put this in here with the Immortal Call and Steel Skin, because both are guard skills, so it means that the cast when damage taking will only trigger once of those, right? So I can put one away, I think the Immortal Call or Steel Skin, whatever you prefer, I guess. And then Withering Stab. Withering Stab is something that they introduced, I think, last league. That gives you a quick movement speed, and also... what was the other thing? The elusive thing with the crit and blah blah blah. It's super nice to have in a cast when damage taken setup. This is basically the cat eyes that I'm getting when I'm getting hit, and then I have like a super big movement speed modifier, and this is just fantastic. For the amulet, just a shaped amulet with quantity, and I got mine with lightning damage leeched as life, which is also super nice. Mine has a bunch of strength as well, and that's why quality it up with the attribute modifiers, and I'm getting so much strength out of it. 200 strength on a raider that is usually having dex, and intelligence on his tree is super quality of life because the less duration will take up 114 strength. Good. The flask we talked about. In addition here, a diamond flask with bleed immunity and the quicksilver flask to speed up things. Good. Let's talk about the skill tree. As I said, most important thing is the Flask effect nodes. There are 4, okay? We have the Arcane Chemistry, we have the Profane Chemistry, then we have these 2 nodes. I count this as 1 for the effect, and then we have this Aqueous Accelerant. Those are the 4 modifiers with the Flask effect that you want to have, okay? Unless you play with the Awakened Gem, as we talked before, you don't need the Arcane Chemistry, and you just anoint the Profane Chemistry and save a lot of points here. So I'm playing with a double inspired learning at the moment. This is not necessary, but it will speed you up just because of the buffs that you steal. This is like the budget headhunter, more or less, right? If you don't have that, you don't have to skill too many points here, okay? So, for example, the Frenzy Charge and the Soul Chief, this is something I only got to make my inspired learning working, okay? Same on the top side. the spell damage per 100 mana and the block spell damage and so on. These are points that I'm only using because of the inspired learning. I need to have 4 of these big nodes in radius skilled that this one works, okay? Just to mention that one. Then I have here the intuitive leap. This gives me overcharge, so I have a way to get power charges. And for the Watcher's Eye, I'm just using a crit strike chance by Wrath because I thought it's just like the build is kind of crit starved. But with the critical strike, this was like not even an Exalt here. This is one of the cheapest Watcher's Eyes here, and this is quite fantastic. If you don't want to use the intuitive leap for the overcharge, if you have a little bit more currency but still don't enough for the inspired learnings, you can take the Blue Nightmare. This is a jewel that will say, in radius, if you have all resistance, this is an equal chance to get power charges. And here we have Cruel Preparation, and it will go over that one. So with a Blue Nightmare, you're getting lightning damage, it's extra chaos, and you have the power charge generation as well. Path of Building is in link in description. The most important here is the Conqueror's Potency. Don't forget about this one. If you're struggling to get your soul gain prevention as low as possible, it might that you forgot to equip this Conqueror's Potency. It's a quest reward, I think Act 5 or something. They go for like 1 alchemy or 1 chaos, so not really cheap, not really expensive at all. Good. We talked about this one. As a quick for the Pantheons here before I forget that. We are having Nature's Boon, the Master Alchemist, the Nature's Adrenaline, and before we take the Veteran Boyer, I decided to not use that one and take 1 additional Flask effect node, so we get the 25 for the reduced soul gain prevention and the Vaal skill cost. Good. Pantheons, I haven't really bothered with that. It would be nice to have the Soul of Shakari with the upgraded poison immunity, because it feels like poison is the one that I die the most to with the degen ground and the metamorphs and so on. So if you are having your Pathfinder leveled up, first of all, run the Desert Spring map with the Divine Vessel and unlock the immune to poison. This is probably one of the best nodes here in the entire league. I just have, I don't know, physical damage reduction and movement speed at the moment. None of these are upgraded, so I'm not really bothering with it too much. For the bandits, I'm helping Alira. This is a crit build. I'm gonna get the multiplier and the all resistance. And for the cosmetics, if you're interested, we're having the full Orient set with the Transcendent Daggers, the Orient Weapon effect, Celestial Character effect, and the footprints. And then we have the Purple Arc with the Stygian Flame Dash effect, the Celestial Aura effect, and why is this not having one? Weird. Soul Nexus and a Dark Immortal Call with the Abyss Eyes and Holy Eyes. It's actually pretty cool. If you're lining up like different versions of eyes here, you can change the colors, you know? So let's say I'm using the blue eyes, and then I'm using the white eyes below this one. You will see that it's now light blue, okay? This also works with other combinations, but I kind of found out that it looks the best for this setup if you use the Abyss Eyes and then the Holy Eyes to make them a little bit more shiny, but still having a green touch. Good. I think that's it for the build guide. Hope you guys enjoyed this build guide and the explanation of the Vaal skills, the soul gain prevention. As I said, this can apply to every other Vaal skill as well. Not all. There are exceptions like Vaal Fireball and so on. But for the majority of Vaal skills, this is the way it will work. Magic Finding, in general, just a small couple words. Super cheap at the moment, can definitely pick up, will make you profit. Just don't invest too much into your maps. If you have a lot of low tier maps that you don't bother with, just get some Magic Find gear on and just run them or something. And you're probably gonna make some currency left and right. Good. I think that's it. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this build guide video and see you on the next video.